Well, this is something we discussed as a team yesterday. The device in Morrison's that is being used to deter criminals and stop shoplifting. It was spotted in Morrison's in Redditch, and the town store is one of the sites that is trialling new CCTV machine known as the Safer Pod 1. It's got 4 legs, it can be moved around with remote control, and it has cameras all around it. It's placed in the alcohol aisle in a bid to reduce shoplifting, so in the higher ticket aisle, you know, where things are of a premium. And it can even trigger an alarm if it spots anything dodgy going on. But it's had a mixed reception. Mark Powlett, who tweeted a picture of it he took in Redditch store, even described it as RoboCop. Oh yeah. I'm back in the film, are you? Yeah. Mark's tweets explained how he wasn't comfortable with the device and it's going to make shoppers feel like criminals. I don't like being watched, do you? Especially by a RoboCop. You can see it, a picture of it, on our Facebook page. Morrison's have told us we launched the Safer Pod 1 initiative in a handful of our stores over the Christmas period, and we're currently reviewing the results. The aim of this was to deter crime while also helping to ensure the safety of our colleagues and customers. But I kind of got to thinking, I mean, you have to kind of see this. It does look like something out of a sci-fi film. Do things like this actually work? Do they or don't they? I mean, you know, as Mark suggested, does it just make people feel a bit like criminals? I don't know. Dr. Rachael Molitor is a behavioural psychologist at Coventry University. Welcome to our sci-fi world, Rachael. Hello.
Thank you very much for having me. Hello and good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for coming on. Interestingly, Morrison's say they've done this to deter crime rather than catch criminals. Do things like this work in your kind of expertise? Do you know?
Yes, they do to an extent. And I think the challenge is we're all being, it sounds very sci-fi now, we're all being watched. There's always CCTV around. There's always things, whether it be in the shops, out and about, whatever we're doing, even on social media now, the amount of TikTok videos you see going around and people are recording bits and pieces. So we are always being watched in a passive way. But I think sometimes people kind of forget that. It's almost like the Big Brother effect, whereas you almost forget the cameras are around and watching these sort of things. So having that active sort of prompt that's sitting there actually does deter people to think, oh, actually it could be watching me. And it's something called the spotlight effect, which makes us feel this sort of cognitive bias that people are paying more attention to us than they actually are. So that little RoboCop, I think it actually looks more something like out of Doctor Who, actually. Yeah. But it makes you feel like something is watching you, even if it's not in your sort of eye gaze or your view at that moment. It just makes you feel, and you're right, and I totally understand, and I've read a lot of the comments about it. I do feel that people feel a bit nervous and a bit sort of deterred from going down that aisle because something may be watching you, and it's very similar to other supermarkets that may have that TV screen sometimes on the aisles, and it just feels like if you can see yourself or something can see you, you just feel that sort of on the spot sort of spotlight effect that something is watching you, which may potentially deter people from stealing or taking the expensive items, which is a real struggle currently with the cost of living.
Oh, massively so. I mean, we've had a number of local businesses on talking about shoplifting to the point that people, when they are challenged, almost kind of like defend themselves as though it's their absolute right to pick things up and walk away with it, which is obviously wrong. I'm really interested, Rachael, in that idea that it sounds like we're desensitised to Big Brother watching us because, as you say, whether it's dash cam footage or whether it's, you know, people out with their phones, we are being watched all the time. Sticking it there reminds us that it's there, because forever we've had them in the ceiling, haven't we? These that look a little bit like I don't know, like the top of, you know, the Smash Martians. They look like those kind of things up in the ceiling that have been watching us for years, but we have forgotten. So this reminder, how likely is the reminder, by seeing it there and reminding ourselves that we are being watched, how much is that likely to stop us from sticking something up our coat?
I think it is very likely. I mean, the researchers, they've said they're still looking at it at the moment. So they're yet to to look at the sort of final sort of figures, but actually having that active viewing something over a passive viewing will make a difference. And it'll make a difference just because people feel like there's something there. We've always seen them in supermarkets. I don't know if you remember the big cutout police officers that you may see, and it's a cardboard cutout. It's not a real police officer watching you, but just having that reminder, sometimes that prompt, that sort of conditioning, as you guys were talking about previously, between something may be there and actually sometimes a reminder that you will get in trouble for doing this. So by you stealing something, you will get in trouble for doing it. So sometimes people may be so desperate. And yes, as we're saying, the cost of living is so awful at the moment, but that doesn't give us the right or the approval to go around and take things from other people or supermarkets. But having that sort of active something there as a reminder does reduce it down, or will reduce it down. And I think it is a real struggle when you're looking at these sort of things. For some people who are completely innocent, we may still feel nervous. And I don't know if you've had it beforehand, but when I've gone through the checkout ones, and you go through those security barriers, even though I full well know that I've taken nothing, I still feel a little bit, and it's just that feeling. It is that feeling of being caught out for something, or having that loss of control, or that fear of false accusation. But the innocent folk around us who aren't taking something may have that fear of false accusation. The people who are taking something may reduce their behaviour down then, to be able to then stop them from taking something on the fear of actually being caught.
Absolutely, that thing. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I've had that going. And when you go out and they've left a security tag on or something, and the alarms are beeping and they want to look in your bag. I mean, seriously, I get a bit irate. It did happen to me once, actually. And I was asked, can I look in your bag? I said, I'll have you for defamation. I got a bit cross, actually. It was another situation. But, I mean, I wouldn't dream of taking something. And I do. Yeah. I've said this before, I'm not advocating shoplifting, but we are in difficult times, and people, not necessarily if they're running in to get 10 bottles of scotch, or, going into the perfume shop down the road and they're just thinking they can take what they like. But I mean, in terms of, for some people, they're desperate. They've got to eat. But again, if this is happening on volume, and particularly if it's happening, I would say, not necessarily, no disrespect to Morrison's, but in the bigger stores, but in independent stores, that's a big dent in their profit, isn't it? So I suppose it's worth having these things.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's worth having something there as a reminder, whether it be a standing camera. I mean, as we said, it's just a trial period at the moment, but just having something there, or just having maybe signs around in the sort of the smaller shops to remind people they're being watched. Because again, it is that the ones in the ceiling, which I was actually with my my niece for. She said it looks like a walnut whip, and I was like, goodness, when were you born? But it does look like a little walnut whip in the ceiling, but you kind of forget about it. They just become similar to the Big Brother effect. You just forget the cameras are there, and actually by having those little reminders makes a huge impact, and hopefully we'll see a reduction in things that shouldn't be stolen, because stealing shouldn't happen anyway, but things such as alcohol and the high-priced items.
Fabulous stuff. Rachel, thanks. Good to talk to you. Interesting. If you're running an independent store, there's a good bit of advice there. Maybe just put something a physical reminder that you are being watched. It's behavioural psychologist at Coventry University, Rachael Molitor. Have you seen one of these kind of Robocop style things in the supermarket? Let me know. Let me know how it made you feel. It's BBC Hereford and Worcester. It's 22 minutes past 7. Tammy Gooding at breakfast. We're here until 10 o'clock today.